Hello everybody, I'm Nicole from the Halliburton County Public Library, and today we're going to be doing a Father's Day craft. So here's what today's will look like. And here's what you're going to need. I have, two circular saw blades. I just have it on a towel so I don't scrape my table. I have two of these, but they're old, they're used. I have several different colors of paint off to the side. Paintbrushes. I also have wire, snips, and a pair of needle nose pliers. I have a 5-minute epoxy. So I'll be using this to seal two of the saw blades together. I also have in this bag, it is a clock mechanism. So there's the hands and the device that turns, keeps time. I also have my paint tray and some bags to cover my table up with. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to be doing these kind of simultaneously, mostly for the ease of it, but I'll let you know what's going on with it. Because it is a circular saw blade, the points are still there. So I'm just putting a towel down. I'm gonna cover it up with a bag. Now, if you're using saw blades, just be careful, because unless it's a completely smooth edged one, even those can be sharp. Just be aware of that and be careful. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paint this gray. The color's actually going to be silver, but a good base coat of gray will give me a nicer silver. I'm just going to grab some paper towel and get started. Before I begin, if you do a single saw blade, so this will end up being a clock. If you're doing the single saw blade, do a really good coat, make sure you get all the crevices. I'm doing a dual layered, so this is going to be sitting on top of the larger one. So I'm going to make sure I get in here on them really nice. So I could just do the plain silver, however, it tends to take a little bit more of a coat. So I thought a nice gray would be a good background. Plus, any bleed through will happen on that and you don't have to worry. And yes, I am going multiple directions. I just want this covered and then I'll give it a really one direction kind of coat. So I'm just going to move this bag. So I'm going to move the whole thing. Okay, so for this one, I'm going just to paint a nice dark black. And again, I'm going to make sure I get in the crevices of it. Okay, so what I'm going to do on this one is I'm actually only going to paint down a bit. I can actually see where the middle saw blade was sitting. So I'm going to paint just a little bit inside that. I want this area here to be clean so that when I put the epoxy on, it can grip right to the saw blade. Okay, so I'm gonna let these dry before I do the next thing. It makes handling it a lot easier. So what I'm doing is there's just some leftover sawdust, sappy stuff that's stuck. Just pulling a little bit of it off. So these are gonna get painted dark green. I actually have them here. It's called hunter green. Just like the saw blades, give it a good coat. And these will probably need a second coat. Other ways to do this, you can actually sand off the rust. You can clear coat that, you can seal the rust in. However, I kind of like the look of one some of the rust will bleed through lighter colors. It just adds a, I don't know, unique quality to it because you can't replicate it very well. Now, these will definitely need a second coat. It may also just be because these saw blades are very smooth, even with the little bit of rust they have on them. The circular saws had a much rougher texture, so the paint just kind of clung to it. Okay, so I'm gonna let these dry. I am going to put the silver coat on the circular saw blade, but I'm going to let that dry just a little bit more. I can see it's mostly dry, but okay, so this is mostly dry. A little bit around the edges on the bag are actually still wet. I'm gonna leave that, but I'm going to put the actual silver paint on. So I have some, I'm just gonna put it right on this time. Okay, I'm just gonna let that one dry now. So I'm actually just gonna add the second coat of green to these and then let them dry. Okay, so my paint's pretty much dry, so I'm getting ready to do my adhesive. So I actually need something to hang this with, because it is a clock. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my wire, and I'm gonna create a kind of a hook. And because of the weight of these saw blades, I'm actually going to make sure it's nice and strong. So right now I'm just kind of figuring out how long it needs to be. And I am just taking it and twisting it. And I am leaving this little loop open. This is what I'm going to be able to hang it from. There is paint on the back of this, so just I'm going to put the wire up through this. And this just adds a little bit of a more of a hook, like almost. If you're doing the single one of these, you can just put the adhesive on the back, or even make it so it looks like a decorative part of it. So I'm going to get a container. I have a lid off a candy container. I'm going to use this to mix my adhesive. If you've never used 5-minute adhesive, make sure you read the package's instructions. Even if you've used it before and you buy a different brand, just make sure you read the instructions. So for this one, I have to mix it once you get the end off and the level's leveled out. I have to mix it for 20 seconds before I apply it. I'm just getting the air out so it comes out evenly. Okay. Okay, so just mix this 20 seconds, so hang on. Okay, and then apply it. Okay, so with that applied, I'm going to take my other saw blade. Just putting the bag over top of it to make sure it doesn't get scratched. So you're actually supposed to clamp this together. I don't have clamps. I'm actually going to put a large jug of water on this to leave it for 30 minutes before I try to handle it. So I'm gonna leave this one be, and we're gonna start on the hand saws. Because I'm going to be working on an angle so you can see what I'm doing. And so I'm gonna be using these together like so. I know there's a gap, but when you hang them, I'm going to be writing, home is where I hang my saw. So it's gonna be home is where I hang. So you just hang these through the handles of the saws. So I'm just going to be using a mix of white, brown, and gray just to get a different color to it, so. Okay, so I'm just gonna let that paint dry, and then the adhesive has to finish drying, and then I will show you what to do. Okay, so the only thing I have left to do on this is to add the clock piece and the numbers. I'm gonna put the clock in first. So pretty easy. Usually this nut and washer here, use it to clamp it to whatever you're using. Can't use it on this one. I just put it in and I lay it down just because of the weight. It's a little bit easier. Our hand goes on first, and then the second hand plugs them. Okay, and I'm just going to paint the numbers. I just gotta make sure 12 goes up right where the hanger is. I'm going to leave it with just the 4 numbers. That way I don't take away from what it looks like. But that's the clock. Okay, so that's the craft. Thank you for joining me. Like I said, you can customize this so that it suits whoever you're giving it to, or even yourself if